I think I like the movie. Dave Bautista wanted to be here tonight. He's filming in Atlanta, so he left a message, or he gave me something he wanted me to say. So he apologizes he can't be here. He's filming a movie. He said, I have a great idea. He was wondering if the cast would be up for a Hotel Artemis the musical.
Yes.
I'm down.
You sing?
What a good idea.
Carry a tune.
I am the wolf king. I am the wolf king. I mean, that was the deciding vote, right?
I want to start with Jodie. If I'm not mistaken, the script hadn't really left Drew's office, and apparently you somehow got a copy of it and mentioned to Drew that you were interested. So apparently this story has not been told as to how you got the script. And I figured tonight, since there's no cameras and no people, that you would want to share it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picky, so I have to go searching and scrounging for things, and I read all sorts of scripts. I read scripts for men and decide whether they should be flipped. I read scripts in different languages. I mean, I forage, and then I found this one.
So it's not going to be given up tonight.
No.
I love how matter of fact it was. He's like, no, you know, I'm trying that out. And
It's a secret hospital. Classic Jodie.
So apparently what happened was that the script hadn't left Drew's possession or Drew's office, and yet she managed to get a copy of it and said, I'm interested in this. Which leads me to the next thing. So for each of you guys, how did you get involved in the project, and what was it about the script that said, I want to be a part of this?
Thanks. I was sent the script when I was in London, probably last like a year and a half ago, and me and Drew talked. I mean, just a reading, the fact that it has such a unique tone to it, the style of it is really unique and original, and I've never read anything like it. And after that, it's just to get to work with these people. It's not too bad, you know. So I just love just the writing, to be honest, and the characters, the story, the relationships in it. And the fact that all these characters are very good at what they do, but they can't seem to get away from it. And I like that push and pull dynamic in it.
Yeah. All that she said, I was in London. No, I wasn't. I was in. I was actually in Vancouver working on Predator, and yeah.
It's good. I've seen that.
That's great. Yeah, cool. There's a new one. I read the script, and it was like they were getting close to production, and so they were looking for Waikiki, and I think you had looked for a few different people, and there was always this kind of conversation about, you know, is there room for, you know, black dude to play this part? Similar to Jodie, you kind of have to forage and look for all the white guy parts and go, oh, yeah, this could be black. And so reading it, I threw my hat into the ring. I said this would be a wonderful thing to do. And my friend Brian Henry was also circling the project at the same time. So we knew we had a chance to play brothers in the film. We knew that Jodie was already a part of the project, so that was going to be dope. And Drew, I said Jude first. Had this. You are? I didn't know that. Shalom. It was one of those things where he had this infectious enthusiasm in his description of how the vision of the film was going to come together. And I was just excited. It was completely different than Randall. It's always nice to do something completely different. You know, there's a time that's going on right now where you can flow a little bit between film and television, between drama and comedy. So I'm really thankful that I get a chance to take advantage of the fullness of the landscape. You know? Yeah. What about you, Jeff?
Yes, yes. Well, it was a beautiful script, you know. It was an interesting part, and then who? By the time we met, wasn't Jodie Foster already involved?
She was the OG.
So of course, the what?
OG, original gangster.
So of course that was wildly, you know, attractive, and But how much of the cast was Ari besides Jodie? Anybody?
Half, I think.
Anyway, you were great people. But then meeting Drew. I'd never met Drew before, and he's a very special man, and very brilliant and seductive, wonderful filmmaker and artist.
I have to stop you right there. How much did you just pay him to say all that?
It's actually mind control. It's a lot easier and cheaper.
I'm actually curious though, Jodie, it's been like 5 years since you've been in front of the camera, and I'm curious, what was it about this role that said, I want to do this?
Well, I sort of rebalanced the schedule. So I directed my first movie when I was 26, and I only directed 4 movies since then. And I felt like I probably directed 10% and then acted 90%, and I wanted to change that. So I sort of made a concerted effort and said, I'm going to focus on directing, and if something comes along that I really love as an actor, I'll do it, but who knows, maybe there never will be anything else ever again. What I was really looking for was something that felt like more of a transformation, something that I could be excited about. And so I really wanted something that didn't feel like everything I'd already done before. So when I found it, that's why I say, anytime I talk about movies that are life-changing for me, that I've really loved and that I feel are good performances, they're usually ones that I've had to knock down the door for.
You didn't have to knock down the door that hard. We have a meeting with you, and then it was a 3-hour meeting, and I think the door push was, and you were wonderful about it as well. You were like, you need to go talk to other people. Just know I'm here, and I literally 20 seconds after I left the hotel, I called the producers.
We had a lot of long
Jodie
conversations. We both like to talk a lot, so our meetings tend to be very, very long.
12 hours one time in my garage.
12-hour meeting in your garage.
Yeah, we postmated 2 different salads during the day.
It's amazing.
But really, to Drew's credit, I mean, I think I'm sure there's people here that want to be a director. Sometimes people say to me, what does a director really do? Well, a director does everything. And in this case, in a film like this, it means the director has this idea of who might be right for the part and tracks them down and calls their people and says, Sofia Boutella, she's so amazing, how can we find her? And he has images for what the film should look like, and there really isn't any part of the film that the director doesn't intend to. And in Drew's case, I would say you're the most prepared first-time director I've ever worked with.
Thank you very much. 52 years in the business.
I was going to actually, Drew, this is your first time making a feature. What the hell is it like having this murderer's row of talent, and also, directing the first feature?
Well, on one level, a tiny bit intimidating, but I chose to try and look at it as, look, I'm going to be spinning every plate there is, and this is new to me, but this isn't new to these people. And so I'm going to be there for them, but I also found a kind of reassurance in the fact that, there were 9 brilliant actors playing these roles who'd come to the script, and, we're a small movie. We, nobody really got paid. We shot it in 33 days, so people were there for the love. And that's actually really helpful as well as a first-time director, when you know that you've not had to bend anyone's arm to be there. They're there because they dig it. And I think that was what carried me through.
One of the things that people might not know is you guys actually filmed this in Los Angeles, in downtown LA. Nothing's filmed in downtown LA. So what was the motivation for downtown LA, and how tough was it to shoot down there, if at all?
I mean, the toughness came from the fact that we were shooting so fast, I would say. There's also a certain, there's a toughness that's good for the film, both about speed, because, it's all happening in one night, and that kind of gets baked into the feel of it. But there's also, there's a genuine roughness to some of the back streets of downtown that we used, like the underpass, or, what we affectionately knew as, first of all, Piss Alley, but turned into Rat Alley when we discovered there were gigantic rats in it. So I think all that grit goes in there, but all the romance of LA goes in there as well. The 1920s in downtown was just this amazing time with these beautiful buildings, and I think kind of, the juxtaposition between that and the kind of gritty grubbiness of it mixed with like 2020s. You know, that was all a part of what, you know, brought it together.
For each of you, memorable moments from filming, is there a day or two you will always remember?
I'm just not going to ever forget the rats. It's as simple as that. They were massive and they were everywhere. And they said to me, "We just want you to know we've done everything to get rid of the rats." And we arrived there and it's like the NFL of rats.
Yeah. Honestly, they were literally, all that had happened was we like squished the whole thing down with, you know, some kind of detergent. And so the rats had moved a foot to the side. And so we're just watching the shooting rather than, and then as it wore off, they joined in.
They were taking a knee.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
I wish I saw the rats. I wasn't there. I
No, you don't.
hear about it. You guys didn't share that. You know, I love shooting that fight scene, and in all truth, because the speed in which I had to.
All her.
The speed in which I had to learn that, and everybody had to adapt to that, the camera department, and all of us in that small corridor. But the stunt team was so spot on, and I think what came out of it is truly special, because I think a part of it is because we had to train for it while we were also filming and figuring out where it might go. So that was pretty special for me, and in all truth, just working with you, Jodie. And we just had that one scene on the couch, and that was my first scene of shooting. And I just remember when I was a kid watching her in the television in France, in the news, and I was a kid, I had no idea who she was, and my mom telling me, "Isn't her French amazing?" I said, "Yeah, so she's American." It's just like, she's been so intelligent and just a joy to work with, and Sterling, you, and it's just the whole cast. I mean, it's such a joy.
Oh, cast of joy. Yada, yada, yada.
See, he's not the guy you think he is
No,
from This Is Us.
but I love,
He's kind of a dick.
you can call them like fucking cunts and stuff. I love mashing Charlie Day's head into that printing machine. That was so much fun, because I've known Charlie, we spent a summer together at Williamstown Theater Festival, summer of 1999. So it's like my boy, right? So you get to kill your boy. That was fun. That was
You
good.
guys gave each other some shit in the games room as well.
This is true, because we did a few different takes of that. Like some where I like smacked him back, like after he put his hand up.
And one where you just held it, and then went right on the side of his face.
I was hoping that made the cut. It didn't make it. But no, it was fun doing that. What about you, Jeff?
Everything was memorable to me. I only had a few days on it. But you know what was memorable? Getting together for rehearsal and getting together with you. I don't know where we were. We went to some place, but kind of sound-stagey, kind of empty space, and with just you and Jodie Foster and me, and kind of worked through the scenes. That was unforgettable for me. I loved it. I loved it. And then Zachary Quinto is so great, and he plays my son. And we had a scene just coming in the alley. I hadn't heard anything about the rats, and we were toe to toe as we were in that scene. Something passed by us, and he said, "Rat." No. Terrible.
To be honest, he'd been kind of traumatized, because when he was in the alley, he was avoiding the rats, and then some cockroaches fell out of the... So apparently there are like rusty pipes, like 2 stories up, and like even the cockroaches were like, "We should get out of here." And they literally, like, one dropped into his hair, because his hair was very heavily gelled. It like stuck in there. Yeah, it was bad shit. Like, there's a reason Zach was like standing in the doorway by the time he gets to your arrival.
Is it your memorable day, or do you have a different memory?
They're all memorable days. Unforgettable, even. But actually, what I would say is, most memorable day, and I don't think you like necessarily remember this. And this is so Jodie was doing one of the, I think it was when the nurse sits down and we, in front of the Niagara mural, and in the movie Helpless is playing. And you know, you did your performance, and I think, you know, the set was quite quiet. It was a good moment, and I actually cried at the monitor. And I came through to Jodie, and I was like, "That was amazing. Can we do one more take?" And you looked at me like, "Drew's crying." So that's the thing I remember the most, I think.
I'm curious for the actors, how much when you're leaving set, do you leave the character on set? How much does like a piece come home with you during the shoot? You know what I mean? You flip it on and off, or will a piece always come home when you're shooting something?
Oh, you know, I like to think that I work organically, so to speak, from the inside out. But it's all I like pretending to, and you know, once I'm done, I don't have too much trouble.
Jeff, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Did you take the sandals home?
I do have those sandals.
There we go.
I do have those sandals.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. Well, I guess so.
I've only worn them. They're there for a special occasion.
They're an occasion sandal for sure.
Yeah, they're not everyday wear, really. Did you notice that that's the introduction of my character? They have a wolf. You know, if you freeze frame, you know, as you will in the years to come. Yeah, there's a wolf on those sandals. There's a wolf.
There's also digital blood because you bought the sandals because the production couldn't afford them because they were Gucci. I couldn't bring myself to go, kind of need to fuck them up with some blood. So I put the blood on digitally afterwards.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Oh, shit. Dude. Let's see. You know, I never think about it in those ways. I think that, like, I'm in all of the characters. I had an acting teacher in grad school talked about how he likened it to being controlled schizophrenia. And there's all these different people that sort of live inside of you. So you kind of get an opportunity to just roll through the Rolodex of character. My wife may have a different take on it because she's the one who's experiencing me. But from my, you know, general take, like, I feel like it's pretty good.
I feel the same. Like if part of the character stays with me or goes home with me while I'm filming, remains with me in the future, I'm not necessarily entirely aware of it. It'll be my surrounding, my people that are close to me that will notice. They haven't said anything. I don't know what that means, but I'm not aware of it.
I think it depends on the character sometimes. I think sometimes, you know, you're obsessed when you make a movie. You're in some hotel in some crazy city. You're all by yourself, and that's all you do is think about the movie. So it's a sort of an obsession that overcomes you. And there are some characters that if you're going to think about them for 22 hours of the day, it's hard to shed them, I think.
What's been the hardest one for you to share?
It's the brave one. Interesting. I didn't really want to leave that one. That one I didn't want to leave. Strangely, something about, you know, being a killer and having a gun, and I don't know, there's something about that
Nothing scary about that, Jodie.
This one, I went home. I had a really bad back on this movie because I had all these fucking props. I had these really heavy props, and I had a fat pad. And strangely, having a fat pad and a bunch of heavy props puts you forward every day. And by the time I got to the end, I was like, oh my God, I had a chiropractor 6 times by the end of the movie. So I went over that.
Those props. I mean, God, so many props.
Too many props.
Too many props.
Never again.
Yeah,
That's my never again.
It's our deal.
Yeah.
Some actors love the Clint Eastwood method of shooting the rehearsal in a take or two. Others love the Fincher method of 50 takes, 60 takes. I'm curious.
110. 110. That was the last shooting day of
I'm curious for each of you, how do you typically like to work? And Drew, how do you like to direct?
I feel like if I start, everyone there has to kind of say that my way is the best. But honestly, look, I think it's practical. I think one of the things about, you know, such a tight schedule, you know, a 33-day shooting schedule, is everyone's focused, and it's really a case from a director's point of view of, have I got what I want? There isn't the luxury of let's see all the other possible things that I could have. It's like, okay, they nailed it, let's move on. And that's actually, I think that's one of the things that's toughest about being a first-time director. And by the way, it's the same with the script, and it's the same in the edit, and it's the same with the VFX, is at a certain point, you got to go, in order to get the rest of it done, I need to get the fuck on with it. And you know, and that's one of the things you learn. Does that make sense to you as a director?
Yeah, I mean, everybody works differently. So sometimes you'll have one actor who doesn't really get wrapped up until take 10, and working with an actor who by take 2 is done. So that's difficult, and you have to sort of figure out how you organize that. But I really like working fast. I just think that it doesn't give the opportunity for the actors to overthink their performances. They have to commit to something, and then they just got to keep doing it and can keep working instinctually. I just think that's a much more exciting way to work. But in order to do that, you have to be better prepared, meaning you have to have some kind of rehearsal so that you know where you're headed, and the director has to have a plan A always running in his mind, and potentially a plan B. But so more preparation so that the moment happens fast.
Yeah, and I think kind of then, for me, the thing that I learned most probably as a new director is listen to what's happening. Don't listen to what you expected to happen. As Waikiki says, like, work with what you've got, not what you hope for, and actually you get something much better if you can stay in the moment. And that's tricky because you're worried. There's people around you just tapping watches, and you just got to stay in the pocket. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't tend to be too rigid about my methods of working. I think I need to be malleable and I need to adapt. At this stage, especially, I don't look forward to having my own methods to how I'd like to be directed or how I'd like to my scenes to go like as an actress, you know. But like the same thing, if you're well prepared and you've done all the work, the necessary work, it shouldn't matter whether or not you're doing it fast or slow, even if it takes a long time. I'd like to be able to adapt no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of in a unique position because I come from the world of television, where you're knocking out like 7, 8 pages a day, you know what I'm saying? It moves at a different speed. So when you get to do a film and you look at like, oh wow, there's a lot of coverage. It's really cool because you get more opportunities, whether it's a modest budget film like ours or a larger budget film. Like, it always shocks me. It's like, man, they covered everything in these movies. We would have been done with this on This Is Us. Like, we would have been on to the next. So I find it really sort of relaxing because my instinct is like, we probably only gonna shoot it 2 times. So I'm usually pretty ready to go. And as I get like 5 or 6 seems enough. If you get into like double digits, I feel like the actors are doing something wrong. And yeah, they ain't doing their job.
Me, a case-by-case basis, you know, I like to think that I can do, you know, a variety of things. I've enjoyed doing a whole movie improvised, you know, and there's only one take on everything. Everything is kind of a documentary thing like that. And I'm thinking about Wes Anderson, who on Grand Budapest Hotel did many, many takes, maybe the most I've ever done, you know, of a speech, and just kept kind of deliciously tweaking little details, you know, within the range of what we were doing. And then after, you know, 21 takes, would say, well, I think we've got it. Now let's do another one just for pleasure. Like that.
Drew, what did you learn from any friends and family screenings or test screenings that impacted the finished film?
Loaded question.
Make it shorter, faster, better.
Okay.
On a practical level, the interesting thing about like modern filmmaking is we couldn't afford reshoots. There's literally one reshoot shot in it, and the only way we could do it is we convinced Panavision to let us use a cupboard in their offices.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And Sterling had to change in that cupboard and then pick up a pen. But for example, at one of the test screenings, we realized that in order for the riot to read, they had to be coming towards a place. So we invented the Clearwater building. And that exists in the movie because Ian, the associate producer, went and shot it on his camera 2 weeks before we picture locked, and Chris, our post-production assistant, used After Effects to put the logo on the shot. And that's how you do it now, is like, and particularly if you're on limited means like we were, you kit bash the movie together. And so we learned a bunch of stuff like that, and I also learned that, I needed Cliff Martinez, and I needed him quickly, because that score is just extraordinary, and it kind of provides a pulse for the movie, and I think that was amazing.
For the actors, some people can watch themselves on screen, and others just walk out of the theater the second the premiere starts. For you guys, can you watch yourselves on screen, or do you just see the flaws or the blemish in that particular take?
No, Jeff, you gotta go first, please.
I'm fretful. I'm fretful until I see it, and I can be critical. And then, but then I can be satisfied. But no, I want to see it. I'm curious. I want to see it. And in this case, thanks again. I must say to Drew Pearce, I did a lot of things that could have been not so good. And he really saved me, helped me terrifically. We went through kind of a involved post production where I went and kind of looped some things that he rewrote, and I saw him polishing it and rejiggering it and scoring it, and I came out to finally, thank goodness to my satisfaction, better than I feared it might, because it was okay.
He's being extremely modest.
No, it's true. I'm just telling the truth.
I feel like what happens for me is I don't watch as much for myself because I'm critical, but I'm able to enjoy the experience because I get a chance to watch all of my castmates, and that's what's exciting. And so I'm pretty good with it, and I think I'm fairly objective. But I'm always wanting to have done something different, but I won't leave. Like I can watch.
Like, and you and I snuck in while we were watching it,
Yeah.
essentially to kind of watch the Charlie kill.
Yeah. It's my favorite. I like that shit a lot. Yeah.
I tend to be very critical and so hard on myself. I used to be a dancer, and that was it's never good enough. You keep working on it. So when I watch a film for the first time, my brain's still working. And so it takes me a while to let go, but I definitely watch because I think I learned from it. And I think I want to also ease into that and be more relaxed and nicer to myself, I suppose.
Well, I started working when I was a little kid, so I was 3 years old when I first started, and I didn't know there was no option of watching your stuff. I mean, that's what we did. We watched our stuff when we read our bad reviews. I mean, I didn't know. I think I developed almost like a meditation of saying, okay, well, this is over. There's nothing I can do about it. It's not in my control, so I'm just gonna let that go. And I feel like I've learned that. The thing that is always fun for me to see the movie isn't really my performance, is to see the whole work of art, is really the team and how the team worked and being a part of the team. And there's really nothing better for me. There is no joy better than being in a movie that is 100 times, where everybody else is 100 times better than you are, and where you're just amazed at what happened that you just never saw coming, and that you're a part of a team that's really great. To me, that's the best joy.
My last question for you guys. I'm curious, you obviously have the script and you presented it to everybody. When you bring people in, sometimes those scripts, the dialogue can change based on the person you're working with. So I'm curious, how did the script change at all based on these voices? And how was it on set? Was he watching every comma and every word?
I mean, I can't speak to the second part of the question. That's for Sterling specifically. But I mean, I'd like to look. It was my first time, as a writer-director on a feature, and one of the things that I wanted to be most cognizant of going in is not to be. I think sometimes there's a mistake that the writer-director can make, which is, great, now I can force everyone to say the words that they've never said in all the other movies when I wrote the scripts. I wanted it to be the opposite of that. So, despite our limited means, we did get rehearsal time. And, and again, I think it's about listening, I think it's about being there. And I would listen to the actors, and even if they felt that a line was working for them, if I could feel that they were maybe being nice to me by saying the line worked for them, then you have to go, well, when I get to the edit, it's going to still feel the same way. So be brave, change everything that needs it. And I'm quite brutal with my own work anyway. I mean, my producer has a file of, and I have a terrible memory, so has a file of all the lines that I cut through all the drafts. Because at the end of it, he was like, well, you could just use that one. I was like, that's okay, that's an all right line. Completely didn't remember. So that was my approach going in, was don't be precious, just know what you think the movie needs.
So how was he on set?
No, incredibly unprecious with his words. Like, would come up. Brian and I were shooting a scene and we were trying to make sense out of it. And I said, Drew, I don't know if this one might make sense. And he's like, great, let's get together. Like in the middle of it, like he'll just stop and then we'll read it a few times and then he'll start like, okay. And then he'll just rewrite something. He's like, how's that sound? And he'd be like, yeah, that's a little bit better. He's like, okay, wait. And he'd write it again. And we would just keep doing that until we got something that everybody felt good with. Like it was such, and every time, and he would laugh at me because I'm like, Drew, that's really good. He's like, yeah, I'm a writer. But like he would do it so fast. You know what I'm saying? Like we would have the rehearsal, and a lot of it came out of rehearsal in terms of tweaks that, fit my voice, Jodie's voice, Sofia, Jeff, etc. But like even while shooting,